morning, class. My name is Oliver Weah. I am a 27-year veteran of the middle school classroom, and you are listening to episode 18 of Middle School Madness, a podcast about teaching and things that are interesting to teachers. If you would like to send in a comment or a question, send them to wieheog@gmail.com. Today on the show, we're talking sports. That's right, you got that, sports. What are the benefits? What are the negatives? Are enough students involved in sports? And then we are going to tackle some seriously hard questions. So to do this, I would like to welcome Victor Gianotta to the show. Victor, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Weah, for having me.
All right, Victor, real quick. Give us a quick background check. What do you teach? How long you've been teaching? And what is your background in sports and coaching?
First, let me say that Dr. Weah has invited me on the show, and we finally got to sit down and do this, which I appreciate all he does for our middle school students. And this is not rehearsed. Everything here is going to be live, and I did not see or know any of the script.
It's a glorious day to have you in our illustrious high-definition studio.
So personally, I tell people I've actually been involved in teaching in youth sports and coaching for 45 years. I started out at the CYO level at the church at St. Albert's in Queens, New York.
No way.
And how I got to basketball and lacrosse and baseball and playing and growing up. And then by the luck of a meeting with a neighbor said, "You love this so much, why don't you just go and get a phys ed degree?" Because we didn't have counselors like we have now, and this was 1980s when you went to high school, and then you didn't know really anybody that went 30 minutes past where they lived, they were a hero, right?
They weren't yeah.
So I got a degree in phys ed from Hunter College, and then another chance meeting with another neighbor said you should get a master's degree, and I didn't even apply online. There were 2 schools in the country. I had to write letters and resumes. Springfield College.
An actual letter.
And letters. Springfield College. My professor at Hunter College, where I went undergrad, Dr. Havel, can't remember his first name, knew some people in Springfield, where actually was the Basketball College Hall of Fame is.
Yep, that's true. Springfield, Mass.
Or was it the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame?
The Pro Basketball.
And Springfield University, which is known for its phys ed, and believe it or not, University of Dayton. And I got accepted and got a full tuition ride for a master's in education. 1988, 89, 90, the best 3 years of my life, University of Dayton.
Wow.
And then I started teaching through a friend and a colleague again. Do I coach college athletics? Do I go high school? I was offered a job in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania after visiting Swickley Academy.
Good old Swickley.
So that all started in around 1992.
Wow. So now you've done,
at that point in 1992, I was the head varsity basketball coach because in Ohio, I was 24 years old and was a head varsity basketball coach while working with the club team at the University of Dayton. Swickley Academy, again, moved to Pittsburgh. Don't know anyone. Don't really know much about the area except I used to work 5-star basketball camp up in Moon Township at Robert Morris.
Okay.
Which was at that time, I'm sure you're getting into some of the AAU nonsense. I apologize for the nonsense comment about AAU. But all the sports now that take up 12 months, 5-star was a place that wasn't AAU, it was a camp. And the best players in the country went there.
Yeah.
So I knew a little bit about that. And then real quick, somehow 3 or 4 years later, I met a woman and we got married. She's from Connellsville, never left the area, went to Peters Township, Seneca Valley in 2003, 2004. And when I was done coaching here, after 28 years as a high school varsity head coach, hooked up with a former Seneca Valley grad, and I've been 7 years as an assistant at La Roche University while also assisting at the 8th grade level at Pine Richland. Because Seneca Valley has their own program going on now, right. And I took my talents while still teaching in what is still, I think, the greatest level of education and the best building in our district, the 7-8 Ryan Gloria Middle School.
In the middle. So
and that's me in a nutshell. I say 45 years of coaching, teaching.
Wow.
And basketball would be probably at the top of what I've done, but I've also been a lacrosse coach and a varsity baseball coach for 2 years. Not to mention helping with the youth as your kids grow up in the soccer area.
Oh my gosh! Always do the youth soccer. Do it as long as you can.
That's it, and that's. So I would put my knowledge or my experience right there with anyone who wants to combat about what we're going to be talking about.
Well, that's fantastic. What division is the college?
LaRoche University, right here in the North Hills, is a Division III school.
Division III.
Yes, we play in the Allegheny Mountain Conference with Penn State Altoona, Pitt Greensburg, Mount Aloysius, Penn State Barron.
Right.
Just lower level than Division I.
Lower level than Division I. Yes. Excellent. Okay, here we go. The main topic, right? Is youth athletics out of control? And you've already touched, right? You can no longer play 3 sports. Right? You've got to commit yourself to one sport at a young age. I've heard in basketball they start keeping track of kids in middle school. We just went through the whole NFL combine. Players are rated. They have 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. I think we got to get our stars going up here. So, as someone who's done it for 40 years, have you watched just youth athletics and parent involvement? Is it out of control, man? Give it to me straight.
Well, I don't know if I classify it as out of control. Some parts of it are out of control. I mean, you just brought up that NFL draft that just occurred. I think it was possibly 3 years ago, maybe even 4. But if you go back and look at the NFL draft picks, very few of them only concentrate on one sport. There's still a place for multi-sports athletes at the high school level, but I do think that the youth sports, as we continue down this path of specialization, is definitely going to have more of an impact, because there's no reason high school athletes cannot do more than one varsity sport. And yes, it does occur, and we're all guilty of it.
100%.
No different as when I was a varsity coach, but I think coaches in general in specific school districts need to work with each other and really share athletes. And the other big avenue that I think no one touches on, even though, yes, youth sports are out of control in many areas, kids don't play anymore.
No, they don't.
They don't know what a ghost runner is. They don't play box ball. They won't have automatics.
Right.
There's just too much, from the time they're 6 or 7 years old, robotic behavior involved, and they're being sold a bill of goods, whether it's soccer, hockey, even football now with these 7-on-7s and the flag football. And parents get lied to. Basically, here's a scenario: your kid will achieve X, Y, and Z, and they never do. Yet they're coughing over
thousands of dollars.
Not to mention when they go on these trips. And we all, both Dr. Wee and myself, we have children that have participated, and we try to keep them grounded. Even the best friends of mine who I think are most knowledgeable, I ask them, why are you going to Indianapolis this weekend with your 9-year-old to play baseball?
9 years old.
And believe it or not, they're playing Hampton.
Right.
Teams travel to Florida, and they're playing teams from the same state of Pennsylvania. They travel. That's, to me, not hypocrisy is not the word, but I don't even know what the word is. Help me out here. You're the English guy.
I don't know. I'm thinking it's like a false equivalence. It's
what's
like
the
if you go and do all these paid-for-play sports, right, and you feel, and it comes with a nice title. I'm in the gold level 5 baseball travel team. We were the West Pennsylvania champions, and now we're going to go down to Florida.
Yeah. And we're ranked 4th in the state.
Right.
I even hear from middle school kids, my lacrosse team is 4th in the state. And I said, really? Who's gone and ranked all the teams in the state of Pennsylvania?
Right.
And
yeah.
Why? Why are you going to play in these? That's the funnel. I always call it the funnel. When we were playing growing up, even when I first got here, the AAU in basketball had 2 teams.
Okay.
And I'm even going to mention my oldest son, who was an average rec baseball player, who when he was on deck was more interested in keeping the scoreboard. And they said to me, would your son like to be on the all-star team this summer? And I went, huh?
What?
He's not even on deck. He's keeping the clock over there. But because the all-star team only combined of the all-stars, which when we were growing up, Now everybody had to be an all-star. Again, and I don't want to digress into curriculum, but
Right.
we used to have one honors class.
Well,
20% of
yes.
the students were honors kids, and there was a cutoff. Well, now 60% of the kids are honors. I'm not sure. So, yes, youth sports are out of control. And the behavior of some parents at events, as opposed to just, you know what, let the kids play. Let the umpires umpire. But we don't allow that in our society. And it's become acceptable behavior. Look at the high school PIAA game between Meadville and Uniontown this year. In the second round of the state, it was called off because of a fight in the stands between parents.
Well, I like what you said. We'll take it back one step. And you said this months ago in the hallway, which was that if you have a kid who's a legitimate shot at going Division I, you as the parent don't have to say anything. And for coaching youth sports,
They'll find you
from 20-some years, if I had a nickel for every parent who had and shared with me their dream of their kid going Division I, I'd have a lot of nickels. Now, if I had $100 for every kid that didn't go, I'd be really rich.
And you, Dr. Wieheog, come, I don't want to give you a background now, but you come from an area where soccer is very strong in the Quaker Valley School District.
Right.
And I know a little bit of the administration and what goes on there. And even in my experience with the players that I've had that have gone Division I, not a one of them is only one sport kid. They may have concentrated on soccer or concentrated on football, and it was a secondary sport. No one that I've known when they got to be that Division I athlete was a single sport guy, or even the way Title IX now and the girls are exactly the same. I mean, you talk about volleyball, or again the soccer component of it, the hockey component. It's not beneficial. I always say to people, when you go to school, you're not just learning English.
Good point.
You're not just learning math. Yet the parents buy into it, and even the normal people who we think are, I have to keep up with everybody else because everyone else is doing it.
And this goes back to what you said earlier, because kids are not going to get off the couch, the metaphorical couch, and go out there and play by themselves and put on the Ghost Runner and figure it out. So their parents end up paying thousands of dollars to be on input any elite name of any squad that they want to call it.
Oh, yes.
And when our teams have gone to states, whether that was Quaker Valley, Seneca Valley here, I would love to know the amount of money every family paid to train that player up to their senior year. And you're talking, if you added up just the starting 11, you're looking at well over $100,000 plus, and I'm going on the small side, I think, to just train those 11 players.
And how many of those players, but real quick, we've also heard not only are they playing in different states, sometimes they go to other countries.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard England,
Yes.
France,
Yes.
tournaments in the Bahamas.
Yes.
So what I was going to say was, how many of those kids who are legitimate D3 or D2 players, oh God, but they don't go Division I, they decide, you know what, I've played enough, I don't even want to play anymore.
Well, that's what I think a lot of them discover in college, if they end up playing, is that you've got to love drills and drills and drills and repetition. And then you've got to love the competition. And you wrap that all up. I just like hanging out with my guys, 8 or 9 hours of a day on the playing field, in the locker room, on the bus, on the plane, on the train. You've got to absolutely love that. And some people will be like, "Nope, I'm done. I don't like all that repetition." It's crazy out there.
Yeah, and we don't have any longitudinal studies out there, but we have been doing this long enough, and we have eyes. We can see. We can see that it's detrimental.
We're going to make you. I, Oliver Wieheog, here at the Middle School Madness Podcast, am going to crown you the Commissioner of Youth Athletics.
Wow.
Right? You are now the Commissioner of Youth Athletics. Can you think of one or two things you would do to make youth athletics better? And once again, better is better involvement, better balance, better anything. You're the commissioner. What are you going to do?
Wow. See, this is why I needed the questions beforehand.
Absolutely no. Absolutely no.
These are, off the top of my head, real quick, the first thing I can think of if I'm the commissioner is time frames.
Time frames.
Meaning, like, you can only, again, and this is, I'm just throwing it out there. This doesn't have to be set in stone because you can always tweak things and make them better for everybody. I'm saying from February, and it's also different in different states because of the weather. Baseball in Florida versus baseball in Pennsylvania. I think you got to put a time frame on it. I think you have to say, like, I remember hockey was one of the first ones where kids wouldn't play other sports because hockey started in August and went all the way to April.
I see what you mean.
So basically, they were going. You couldn't, even if you were a hockey player and wanted to do another sport, you were in the fall, the winter, and the spring.
Right.
I'm thinking, like, okay, you know what? You want to do travel baseball, whatever you want to call it. That's July 1 to August 15th. You want to do football, you're August 15th to, November 1. You want to do lacrosse, you're the month of November. Basketball, December and January. Do something along those lines where the time frame, because we'll never go back to kids playing in general because of whatever you want to call it, where our society is. It's an excuse. But, however, we still have to have kids out there doing more than one sport. The backyard football. I digress from your question because I'm trying to think.
Well, remember, you are the commissioner of all youth athletics, but I like that idea.
Time frame is one.
You've got baseball, you got time frame. Sports are only going to be played during that time. They need to be accomplished during that time, and when they're done, you can go to another sport.
Yeah, I also think that there has to be some kind of, not legalization, but some kind of oversight as to distance of travel. Like
agreed. Yes. There you go.
It makes
there you go.
Absolutely. Even as a varsity basketball coach, I remember parents conversing, not complaining. Why don't we go into Florida over Christmas? Why don't we go into Vegas? That's because I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old at home.
Right. I'm not doing it.
So as the commissioner of youth sports, I think there has to be a time frame and there has to be some kind of travel restrictions. And then I think one of the big issues is coaches. I mean, I've seen, again, I can only revert to my experience when I was bringing one of my sons, I can't remember who it was, right here to one of the parks, and we signed up for Cranberry baseball, Little League baseball.
Right.
8-year-old, 9-year-old. And I see two teams. I'm going down the hill and I see two teams. And there's 3 coaches on one side of a baseball field. And one guy's batting. And one dad is catching. And one dad is playing first base. And all 12 guys were in a straight line. 12 players were in a straight line waiting for ground balls.
Oh, that's
and then
horrible.
on the other field, it looked to me like a hitting off a tee station, a fly ball station. I was like, please let me be on the right. Let me be on the team that has the stations going on.
Yes.
Because the coaches are not also, they get caught up in, and I ran youth leagues, and I ran, where people are trying to draft and basically get the best team so they could win. Where as a 6th grade in-house program, it's irrelevant.
Totally irrelevant.
But they got smoke machines and jackets.
I know they got smoke machines. They got a photographer who's
in 5th
going to
grade.
show up.
They're coming out with their names on the back of their jerseys.
So are parents the underlying problem with youth sports? Because I said every year that I coached in multiple things with multiple kids there was always, the dads who, like you said, they're going to draft a team. They're going to do everything they can to win. And then they go and they're like, hey, we won all 12 games this year. Like,
they get a sweatshirt and it says, elementary record, 37-1-1.
Elementary record.
And people don't understand, well, you're playing Shaler. Like, why did we beat Shaler in 7th and 8th grade? Well, because the 2 kids that Shaler had moved up and they're both Penn State players now. So that's why you're not beating them. But yeah, winning, you don't, God forbid you don't keep score. Fundamentals of learning the game, teaching the basics are lost. I mean, I'm sitting there at our university has a tournament in the wintertime for grade school teams, and I'm watching a 3rd grade parent and begging their children to shoot 3-pointers. And they can't even lift the ball up. And they're 19 feet 9 inches from the basket. And they're missing, and mom's like, don't worry, sonny, keep shooting. You'll make one eventually.
Victor, you have now gone right into my next question, right? You have got, right? The kid shooting the baskets. When is basketball going to shrink or lower the net for youth players? Soccer already does this. You start youth and the field grows with you until you eventually are on a full-size field using a number 5 ball. When is basketball going to do this?
Well, the problem you have with that is that there are not hoops that are, you got to somehow manufacture the hoops. I remember back in the day, we had a hoop, only 2 hoops on the side in the high school gym. You can use a crank and you can lower it.
Crank it.
So that's number one, because the thing about basketball, which is bizarre in of itself, is that people think scoring is the only thing. How'd you do today? Did you win or lose? How many points did you score? So yes, you have to put the ball in a basket.
Of course.
You know, small-sided games like they do in soccer or football or lacrosse, yes. So you have to, I agree with the smaller basketball and lowering the rim. But the other problem, and it takes it back to coaching again, I think, and also parents not understanding that there are other avenues and mechanisms that kids do on the court or the field that make them good players. They can guard the ball. They can pass the ball. They can rebound. They can defend on the weak side. But people that don't understand the sport have no idea how to teach kids
How to do
that.
that.
Hubie Brown, who is one of the most revered, he's probably 94-year-old guy who still color commentates NBA games. I remember him doing a clinic, and he asked a mathematical question. He said, how many guys are on a basketball court? 5 plus 5, right? Everybody went 10. And then he said, well, how many basketballs are there? He said, 1. How many guys don't have the ball?
Right.
Everybody went 9. And Hubie Brown looked at everybody and said, learn what the other 9 guys are supposed to be doing, and you could become a good basketball player.
A great player.
And you could equate that to almost any sport, unless you're talking about tennis or golf or something that's an
Right.
individual sport. However, those sports, too, we haven't even touched on. They're insane as well. There are people leaving 7th and 8th grade to go play tennis in Florida or
Yes.
golf in
Yes.
Atlanta or hockey in Canada or we could just sit here until
As it goes
2
on
in
at
the
a
morning.
sports. Hey, my kid goes to a sports academy. Okay.
Any kid can go to a sports academy.
Right.
Back in the day, you had to be invited to go to a
the
sports academy. And it's of who's who. The publication is always, well, yeah, you can get your name in there. That's $75.
Yeah.
I mean, we've lost and the other thing as a commissioner somehow, because I'm still a commissioner, right?
You can still. Yeah, you're still the commissioner of all of youth
I didn't
athletics.
get tossed yet. I feel like I have a limited window because people will not agree with me. But I speak from experience, and I think the other difficult part is understanding, and you touched on it a little bit, somehow winning and losing is not important to a 8-year-old contest or a 9-year-old contest.
No.
I mean, we've done this
Right.
to know. I'm a coach pitch. We had a guy that was so bad at coach pitch on the other. I was good because I'm the gym teacher and I'm throwing darts. I'm trying to hit kids' bats.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I needed to coach pitch for the other team.
Right.
And parents on the other team were thinking I was going to cheat. It is like 7 o'clock under the lights on a Friday. Yeah. And I'm like, so I'm coming out here to coach pitch to your team because I want my team. Lady, no, that's not why we're here.
That's not why we're
here. We're here for the kids to
Kids.
learn how to play.
Right.
Because if you took 12 of them on the field and a ball and a bat, I'm not sure they would know what to do.
No. Yeah. Okay, here we go. We got a caller. Caller is on line 1. Caller, you're on the show with me and Victor. How you doing?
Hi, Oliver. I'm a first-time caller and a long-time listener. Thanks for putting me through. I got a question for Victor. Victor, as a middle school basketball coach, are you more of a Bobby Knight anger and fury or more of a Phil Jackson Jedi Master? I love the show, guys. I'm going to hang up and listen to the answer. Thanks.
Neither.
So are you?
Oh, more. If I was more of. Wow.
Are you?
Hello? We're being interrupted. Oh, they want to go national.
They want to go national.
ESPN wants to take this.
So then, like, as your coaching style, 40 years of coaching.
Yes.
Anger and fury, Jedi Master, somewhere in between. How would you describe
Yeah,
yourself?
I would say somewhere in between. I think back in the day it was more Bobby Knight-like, but they was like that anywhere. Even your parents at home or your teachers, you're doing it my way with no questions.
Right.
You know, now at the college level, you can still get away with that because it's a different vibe, but also I think you have to explain to the kids why you're doing things.
Mm-hmm.
On the middle school level, you could probably get away with a little tiny Bobby Knight, but you would have to depend on the individual. You know, you got to be a little more Phil Jackson, a little combination of, But there still has to be ramifications. I think that at the middle school level, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, that's when it starts to, you separate. Like, listen, you're not the cleanup hitter. You're not playing center forward. You're not handling the ball. You got to do what you have to do to help the team win. You do what you have to do to play your role. So you have to kind of explain that to kids more than you did back in the day. So yeah, you could be a little bit Bobby Knight, but you got to be more Jedi Master, I think. But when you practice and when you're playing games and when you're teaching kids, no, you have to have consequences and you have to have standards and you have to say, we're making 8 in a row. We're not getting to the next drill.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd say a little bit more Bobby Knight. Not much, but a little bit more.
A little bit more Bobby Knight?
Yeah.
Well, we said this the other day in the hallway. I've always said to my players, you don't want to hustle. You don't want to get the ball, which is something you want them to do. Then I have the best motivator for you. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be any speech that I ever give you. It's called the bench. Mm-hmm. And you simply sit there. Right? And then maybe you reflect on, gee, Coach, we didn't put me in today. Oh, that's right. Yesterday he told me 3 times to pick up the hustle or he wasn't going to play me. I wonder if I should pick up the hustle.
The bench has.
But when I think of Bobby Knight or Phil Jackson, I'm like, yeah, that's me just being a Phil Jackson. I'm just going to softly say this to you. Right? I'm not, I did my yelling yesterday in practice where I probably mentioned it once in front of everybody, mentioned it a second time, the third time brought you over and whispered it into your ear.
Sure.
And then, of course, the next day, guess what? You're not playing. And I think that's also how you got to coach people in 2025.
Well, and that kicks you back to the problem we have because as a middle school coach and then as a junior high and a varsity and a collegiate coach, you're taking kids in now and your goal is to make your team better and teach and nurture, but also try to win basketball or football or whatever game you're trying to win the game. Yet when you go back to the youth sports,
right,
it's not about who the better player is sometimes, it's whose parent is paying the most money. Why is this kid batting third? Why is this kid not playing right field instead of third base? Because so many different factors where kids are pushed into roles because of their parents and because there's so many teams and so many people and so much, I guess for lack of being straightforward, is just lying to parents about kids' abilities. I mean, there's really no other way to, I love my colleague over here that I work with, but, I have to tell my fellow PE teacher sometimes, don't tell that kid to try out. Because he's going to get cut, and then you have to explain to him.
Right. Well, when you told me to try out, Coach, and I tried out, and you cut me.
Listen, if the Knicks are playing the Pistons right now,
yes.
It's 3-1 Knicks.
3-1 Knicks.
If somehow the Pistons come back and win the series, and Tom Thibodeau, who's the head coach of the Knicks, gets fired, I can tell you, I will not be the head coach of the Knicks next year.
But Coach, you coach a Division III basketball team.
But I should be. I mean, I think my mom, who's 85 years old, will probably think I should be the coach of the Knicks. She probably thinks I should.
Yeah.
I don't think, but still, she's not going to call. So youth sports has hurt school sports. And I do know you from my son had played that couple years. And
Both of them played for me.
I do know that I see when you make certain that kids wear white shirts. I don't care what club team you played for.
Right.
Because when you first started and back in the day, and I don't even know this, I'm a soccer guy, Beadling.
Oh, my gosh.
That was a club.
That's the club in town.
And there was no other club.
Nope.
And the South Park had a club for girls. There was one. And if you then just played local soccer.
Right.
And then someone got the bright idea, I don't know who it was, let's start our own club.
Yes.
And let's start another club.
And so it began.
Let's start another club.
So the great story is, I don't remember what year in coaching I was, but we said, put your name on the back. But we hadn't discovered, put your name on the back of a white shirt. This is where we got the white shirt story. We are 10 minutes into a practice when a mom runs out and starts dropping F-bombs in front of me. Because
I'm sure his son wasn't embarrassed at all.
The other kids are wearing like the Beadling, the Cup teams with their names on it, and he's just got a regular shirt, right? Maybe with like a duct tape name on it. And once she had a valid point, which we changed it there and after for every year, which is always the problem, right? If you play rec ball or cup sports, but it's always fun to be out there and just have a parent swear at you.
Yes.
So here we go.
We don't have enough time to.
Right, we are down to the final. Here we go. We're gonna do 3 predictions.
Okay.
And then we're gonna call it a day.
Thank you for having me.
No, it is great. Oh my God, great to have you on the show. We'll have you back to see if these sports predictions came first. All right, we're gonna start off with a hard one for you. Who's gonna win the Stanley Cup this year?
Wow.
I know.
I'm not an avid hockey guy, but
I
I do follow it. I do know that Mike Sullivan was sacked today by the Penguins.
Former Penguins coach.
I do know.
There's still a lot of team
I'm gonna
play.
go with the Los Angeles Kings.
The Los Angeles Kings are actually a team that are in the playoffs. So
I know the teams are in the playoffs.
Okay.
And that's will be my representative, and possibly just you don't care who the other East team is.
I could care less.
Okay.
Next question, because I know you're a big basketball guy, so we're going right to it. Who's going to win the NBA this year?
I'm going with. I've been saying it since I watched them play a game. I'm going to go with the Thunder.
The Thunder. Oh, I got my fingers crossed. I was hoping you would say the Cavaliers. I'm from Cleveland. I was really hoping the Cavs would do it. Okay, here we go. Last prediction before we do the end of the show, right? Paul Skeens is in the second year of his contract. We know that as rookies, you sign a 3-year contract. Prediction. Will he stay? Will he go? Or do you even care?
He'll be a Yankee or a Dodger.
He's going to be a Yankee or a Dodger. Well, you know what they say. There is the sound of the bell. It is time to shut down the scoreboard, turn off the lights in the gym, and leave the greatest playground in the world, our classroom. Victor, thanks for coming on the show.
Great, Dr. Weir, for having me.
We are so glad that you decided to become a teacher and a coach. We need good teachers, and we need good coaches all the time. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you guys in the hallway.
That's a wrap.
And that's a wrap. Awesome.